Hey guys, now in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a real special product that came over to the channel. We were thoroughly surprised and very grateful to Bambu Lab for sending us the A1 Mini. We had been eyeing this when we saw it first announced, and frankly, I was a little skeptical when I first saw this printer, scratching my head as to why and for who. And I have to say, we have fallen in love with the A1 Mini. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the features, we're going to take a look at the print quality, and we're also going to talk about who is this printer for. So let's get right to it. Now, when we saw the A1 Mini, we asked ourselves, who is the target market for the A1 Mini? Why would Bambu Lab come out with a smaller 3D printer, not a larger one? Because let's face it, all of us are looking for a larger P1P, P1S, or even an X1 Carbon, looking for a larger form factor. So when we got our hands on this, we started tinkering and we started playing. And a couple things to highlight. The bed itself is a 180 by 180 by 180 bed, very small. And that was one thing that I thought could be an issue for me. But what I've learned is that as I was using this printer, I found that this bed size is great for prototyping and for some of the prints that we do for our Etsy store. Absolutely fantastic because I'm getting the speed and the quality that I would get for the larger printers, but it's something that is smaller and more compact. Matter of fact, this is something that could live in my office. I don't need the X1 Carbon, I don't need the P1P or P1S in my office. This could go in there, and it's also ultra quiet. In addition to that, you have the speed that you would expect from a Bambu Lab printer. 500 millimeters per second print, 1,000 millimeters per second movement. So you're going to be able to get fast prints. The other thing is that the construction on this printer, we're talking about a steel and extruded aluminum build. This thing is solid. And one of the things that you'll see in a couple seconds is we've named all of our Bambu printers after speedsters because they're so fast. This one we named Kid Flash because it's so small. And we have the Flash and we have some other ones in the house. But the Kid Flash here also has a stainless steel nozzle, 300C. And the nozzle itself that you see right here goes anywhere from 0.2, 0.04, 0.06, and 0.08. This has it comes with a 0.04. And it prints spectacularly. You're going to see the quality of that. It has a textured PEI sheet, and so we can see it right here. We'll go ahead and lift this sheet, and you can see how the sheet is. And the sheet has been printing quite a bit. It's magnetic, as you saw, so I can just put it back in place just like this. And it basically has a max temperature of 80 C. Now, not super hot if you're looking at some of the other material types, but this works for what we're doing, which is mostly PLA that we print on this machine. It does have a camera, and you'll notice this little light right here, and it has a little camera right there. That camera is a 1080p camera, and given the position, given the lighting, I've shown this to some of my friends on my phone, and they go like, wow, that's a better camera, or it looks better than the X1 or the P1P or the P1S. Who would have known? It may be because of how it's open and how much light is coming in, but things are really clear as well. Now with that camera, you also have the ability to do time lapse. So you'll be able to see your prints and you'll do your time lapse as well. It does have a filament runout sensor. In addition to having the filament runout sensor, it has power loss recovery. It has also filament tangle sensors as well. Some have complained that the filament tangle sensor has gone off or tripped off. I haven't had that problem, but I'm also running the latest firmware. So that's also important. Wi-Fi, all right? So you don't have to come to it. You can just do things through the phone or through the desktop app. And then the other thing is that the material types, and you see that I have something back here, which is their AMS. It's a little bit different than the AMS that we've seen in the other printer. Basically, you can have PLA, PETG, TPU, or PVA. Those are kind of like the recommended type materials that you'd want to print on this. You don't want to go anything beyond that. But the big standout feature is, again, in addition to the size itself, is the fact that you have an AMS. Now, that means that this printer can print multicolored prints. And you can see one of the ones that we did right here. This is a part of a light box that when illuminated, you'll see the gym shoes. This actually came from the marketplace on the Bambu Lab marketplace. I'll put a link for those of you who are interested in this in the description area, and then we'll also highlight who the author is in the video in the footer that you should see in a couple seconds. So you'll be able to get color. Now, the AMS is a little bit different. It reacts a little bit different as well. So you'll notice that you have all of the filament coming up to the print head here. And you could actually see all of them here. They're not all the way in, but you can see them fed all the way up to this point. So the prints do go a little bit faster when it comes to color changing because it doesn't have to, again, travel the entire path because there's not just one tube, but there's 4 tubes that it's going through. That's the other thing. Now, the AMS unit, which we're going to take a look at in a second, also has really interesting support when it comes to how you put your rolls of filament. So let's just look at a couple more things and then we'll go back to the AMS so you can see more about the printer. I'm going to go ahead and switch, get behind the camera, and then we're going to look at the printer close up. Now the printer itself, I've been running it in our dining room just to test and see how loud the printer is. And what we found is that it runs extremely quiet. This is something that you can have in an area of your home and it will not bother you. There's only one noise that I hear from this, and that is a little startup, almost like a game sound, like an old Nintendo or Atari as it starts up. And that's something that is the loudest thing, and that's something that you can disable. But let's take a look at some of the quality of the prints before we do this, the rest of the review. So take a look at this. This is coming from the Bambu. This is a multicolor print, benchy, right? And you can see it's the quality that you would expect from any one of their printers. Here is another one, and this is a standard one. All these printed ultra, ultra fast, and they are doing great when it comes to overall look and quality. We did a multi-print, and we'll get this guy over here, multicolor print. We did this Panda, right? And he did really well. I didn't remove all of the support material that you see there, so there's still some support material there. And I ran out of filament, so his nose got a little bit cut off, but that was fine. Everything worked out, and everything works well. Now, the one thing that I found that is just standard when you're dealing with any kind of Bambu printer that has AMS is the amount of poop. And this is the filament that gets rejected as you're creating these prints. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring on camera, I'm taking off some loose pieces. This is how much poop this guy right here created. There is a lot here. This is literally just black and white and gray material that was used to print this guy. So the one thing about having anything that is color is that it is going to use up more filament, and also you're going to have more waste. This may do better because of how close the filament is to the nozzle at the very top that I showed you when it comes to speed. But the filament, purging is still going to be a concern for many if you're going to be using multicolor prints. All right, we'll go ahead and move these guys over to the side. I did this guy right here too. We'll bring this in camera. This is really nice. This is intended to be a light box. The other portion in the back, I haven't printed it yet, but you'll notice print in place, multicolor, looks great. Actually love this print. Now the bed itself, you'll notice here, is removable. It actually has a wiper area over here, comes into place. As the printer is printing, you'll notice how it will basically clean itself, do some level testing, and then start printing. I do wipe this off occasionally with alcohol. I've been touching it a lot right now. I'll probably do that to make sure that things stick. Now, as we look at the nozzle, let's go ahead and shift for a second. Now, looking at the print head, multi-filament input, and basically, it will basically come in here. It does have a filament, I would say, launcher, right, or catapult. Basically, it will extrude here an extra filament, kick it out, and that's why I have this little tray right here, or bin to capture it. So I just basically put it here on the side, and it kicks it in here, and it's not all over the place. In addition to that, you do have on this side over here the light that we talked about. You have your camera. You'll notice my label of Kid Flash. We'll push this back a little bit. And it does have an on-screen display. And we just finished printing a prototype just a couple seconds ago for testing. So what we'll do is let's take a look at the display and see all the options you have there. Now, as we look at the top here, you can see the temperature of your nozzle, temperature of your bed, your Wi-Fi, your camera. We could go into filament here, and you can see your single spool, if you have a single spool on, or your AMS, which I have, and the ability to load and unload filament. You also then have in your control area, standard controls, nozzle, bed, speed, right? Lights, you can turn the light on and off, extruder movement, X, Y. All these things are pretty standard, right? You can go into your settings area here. You can see, again, information, your firmware, your Wi-Fi, any kind of maintenance that's required, you'll be able to see it there. Your SD, you can see, again, your screen time, timeout, LAN mode, if you want to do that so it's not going through the cloud. All those good things that you would expect in this area. You also then have your AI assistance, so there's no messages, anything that you have to worry about. Now the middle of the screen here, as you touch it, you can come in and you can see your prints. Now these are all the prints that we've printed on it. And what I like about that is that they're actually stored. So they're actually stored here. And I'm going to put this Benchy to print in a couple seconds. So one of the tips I want to give you also is that if you put in the tubes and you put them in the wrong order, you have to print this little guy right here. And that little guy is going to basically allow you to remove the filament tubes really easy. That's something that you will need. Here's the bamboo that I printed, or the panda, and then you can see some of the other items that are on here. So a lot of detail here when it comes to your prints, and what we'll do is just so you can see what the print exercise looks like. I'm going to go ahead and choose this Benchy here, okay, and then let's go ahead and hit continue. And once you choose your print, you're going to get this detail which will allow you to access different colors if you want to do coloring, bed leveling, and also dynamic calibration flows if needed. I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to hit print. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to choose the gray as my print, and I'm going to choose print. Now a couple things will happen as it warms up. You can see that it's loading. It says it's going to give me information as to how much time it thinks it's going to take. You can see that's the kind of Nintendo sound I mentioned it makes. You'll see your nozzle temperature, bed temperature rising, speed or percentage of speed that you have, and percentage of your fan, your light, and then you have play and pause. You'll notice that it's recording as well. Let's take a look at and try to capture the actual movement that this is doing right here. So we'll pull out just so that you can see that right there. And we'll just watch the startup. We'll zoom in a little bit right here so you can see everything that's going to happen. So the nozzle temperature is going to heat up really quick. So right now it's at 158, 160. So it has a really decent speed when it comes to nozzle temperature, and I'd really like that. Followed by that, then you have your bed temperature is going to go up as well. Now, since we chose gray, the very first part of our process, and we'll zoom out a little bit so you can see what's going on here, you're going to see the filament spool in the back right there is going to rotate, which it already did, and it fed some filament in, so the gray is already being fed there. We'll see some of that waste coming out, and then it's going to kick it off to the side. I don't have my little basket there, so it's probably going to fall on the floor, which is not a problem because we'll pick that up and then deal with that once that happens. Now it's already kicked off the actual filament off, and it had that initial purge. We'll just grab it right here so you can see it. There's that initial purge. And now what it's going to do is it's going to clean the head. It's going to tap over here a couple times. It's going to go ahead and also do its bed leveling, just checking things out, and then it's going to start to print. Now, as it's going through its checks, we're going to highlight some other areas. Here you have your SD card, your micro SD. This is your connection for your AMS. There is an additional port right here. We don't know what that's going to be used for, but one is present there. So maybe there's some type of expansion that's going to be coming soon. You can see how it's going through its process. And the initial, when it speeds up and it starts off, it does get a little bit louder because of just a startup sequence. But then once it starts, it gets really quiet, and it's really difficult to be able to hear it if you have a home that has a lot of white noise. You'll notice that you have here your power cord that goes from here to the actual print head. You have a cable that comes into the actual unit itself, a little LED that indicates that the unit is on. You do have in the back here a spool for if you're not going to be using the AMS. It's one way to go with that spool holder. All right, so we're off, and you can see this is Bambu Fast. So we're going to let the Benchy actually print out. You notice that it's going crazy fast. It did do 2 purges of filament, which I'll bring on camera. You can see this is at least the startup purge that it did for that. All right, almost quite a bit there. And we'll just let it continue to run. Now, while the print is going, I'll just highlight a couple things about the AMS. The AMS has a unique mounting or locking mechanism. I'm going to move this off right here for a second so you can see. You notice that this area right here is where the actual spools will go. Most of the spools I have fit. You might find some spools will not fit, but what ends up happening is once it goes in, it locks in. Now this, as it's basically being pulled in, kind of has a spring mechanism so that as it unloads, it kind of rotates on itself, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this one back in, just like that, right? And make sure that that's right there. Now to load your filament, all you're gonna do is push this button in, load your filament in, and it will load it all the way up to the print head. Nothing else is required. Now while the printer is still running, and we can see there in the background, you can see that each one of your positions for your filament is labeled. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you'll notice that this is 4, this is 3, and then this is 2, and then this is 1. You have to make sure that you put these in a specific order so that you have the right length. I like having it behind it. Now one thing that is pretty clear as you look at this is that the actual footprint of this smaller Bambu, the A1 Mini, seems to be larger than the P1P, P1S, or even the X1 Carbon, because the AMS unit cannot sit on top. So make sure that you understand that as you look at getting space. Now the AMS does have a nice support bracket here, and you'll notice that this basically is just going to hold it up in this area. This is again an optional accessory, but highly recommended, especially if you want to experiment with color prints. Now one other thing I wanted to highlight is that this is actually an official Bambu Lab filament that comes in one of their spools. It does have like an NFC chip in it. So when you put it into the actual printer, it recognizes the actual type of material and the color automatically. I didn't have to do anything. The other ones, which are off-brand, some of them are Polymaker, and this one is Elegoo. These, you have to tell the system what you have, and I'm just using Polymaker PLA settings for all of them. All right, so here's another view of the AMS, and you can see how it's rotating to provide filament for the benchy that we're printing. And then you can see everything that's going on. It does shake quite a bit as it's moving, so that's going to be something that you should take into consideration as you determine the position for this printer. Now everything here is happening in real time, so I haven't really stopped the video, and the amount of time that's transpired is around a few minutes. It's 55%, and my recording is going on now for 13 minutes. So you can see how fast this printer is printing, right? And you may be able to hear the noise. The loudest part of this printer is going to be the fan. Now this is one of the parts that we've printed off on the A1 Mini. And I just want to show you the overall quality of this print. This is a jig that's used for laser engraving. And you can see what this bottom layer looks like. And this is again coming from the A1. Now here's one coming from the P1S. Crazy, isn't it? Side by side. Back. Almost identical. Oh, yeah, identical. Now the X1 Mini is a great printer for those of you who are looking to get into printing for the first time and would like to have a fantastic color solution like this, which in my opinion there are other solutions out on the market, but none that actually can create the kind of quality of print that you can with the Bambu Lab printer line of printers, and do it at the price point that we're looking at right here. If you're a beginner, or if you're not a beginner and just looking for something for rapid prototyping like I am, this printer is going to meet that need. It is also one of the most affordable printers for the quality that you're getting with this color solution that we're seeing here that you can find on the market as well. So want to thank Bambu Lab for sending us this printer for review, to check it out on our channel and to experience something so unique, small but powerful. If you have any comments or questions, let us know. See you in the next video.